What came before the beginning? Before we drift into the deepest mystery of existence itself, tell us in the comments where you're listening from tonight. Are you tucked beneath blankets in a city where millions of lights pierce the darkness? Or perhaps you're somewhere quiet where the stars still remember how to whisper their ancient secrets? We love knowing that this exploration of the void before everything reaches your corner of the cosmos, wherever that may be. Leave us a gentle word below, we're always listening to, floating here in the space between questions and answers. You float in something that has no name. Not darkness. Darkness requires light to define it, needs photons and shadows and the memory of brightness to give it meaning. Not emptiness. Emptiness needs space to contain it, requires boundaries and edges, and the concept of fullness to make sense of what it lacks. Not silence. Silence demands the possibility of sound, the potential for vibration, the echo of what could be noise. You are suspended in something far more profound than any of these familiar absences. You drift in the pause between one heartbeat and the next, in the breath held between question and answer, in the infinite moment that exists before the universe learned how to exist at all. Here, in this place that is not a place, time has not yet invented itself. There is no then, no now, no next. The very concepts of before and after float here like unborn possibilities, waiting for reality to give them permission to unfold. You cannot measure this moment because measurement itself requires change, requires something to move from here to there, from one state to another. But here, nothing moves because movement needs space to move through, and space has not yet learned how to spread itself across the void. Nothing changes because change requires time to flow from one moment to the next, and time sleeps here like a seed in winter soil, heavy with potential but not yet ready to sprout into sequence and causation. You breathe, but not with lungs. You exist, but not with substance. You are aware, but not with consciousness as you know it. This is awareness without an observer, existence without being, presence without form. You're the universe in its most essential state. Pure possibility, unmarked by the fingerprints of reality, untouched by the crude necessity of actually having to be something rather than everything and nothing simultaneously. In this state, you contain all the galaxies that will ever spiral through space, all the stars that will ever burn, all the planets that will ever cool, all the life that will ever wonder about its origins. They sleep within you like dreams within a dreamer who has not yet learned how to wake. The temperature here is not cold because cold implies the absence of heat, and heat has not yet been born from the dance of particles that do not yet exist. The pressure here is not zero, because zero implies measurement against something else, and there is no something else to measure against. You exist in a state that transcends all the comfortable opposites that reality will later use to make sense of itself. Hot and cold, dense and sparse, something and nothing, being and non-being. These dualities have not yet been invented. The universe has not yet learned the art of distinction, has not yet drawn the first line that will separate this from that, here from there, self from other. If you could somehow perceive yourself in this state, though perception itself is still just a whispered possibility, you would find that you are simultaneously smaller than the smallest thing imaginable and larger than the largest. You're more condensed than any black hole will ever be, containing infinite density without weight, infinite information without data, infinite potential without manifestation. Yet you are also more expansive than the observable universe will ever become, because you contain not just all the space that will unfold, but all the space that could unfold, all the alternate realities and parallel possibilities that exist in pure potential, waiting for the cosmic dice to roll and choose which version of existence gets to actually exist. In this primordial state, you are intimate with mysteries that will later take humans millennia to even begin to formulate as questions. You know, without knowing, what it means for something to emerge from nothing. You understand, without understanding, how being can bootstrap itself into existence from pure non-being. You are familiar, without familiarity, with the strange loops and paradoxes that will later make philosophers dizzy and physicists humble. The deepest koans of existence are not puzzles here. They are simply the natural state of things, the way reality exists before it learns the rules it will later seem to follow. You are pregnant with causation, but have not yet given birth to cause and effect. You contain the seeds of logic, but have not yet sprouted the tree of rational sequence. Everything that will ever happen exists here as pure potential, but none of it has happened yet because happening requires time, and time is still just one of the infinite possibilities you contain. Past, present, and future are not arranged in sequence here. They are all equally unreal, equally potential, equally waiting for existence to begin the great sorting that will separate was from is from will be. In this state, the heat death of the universe is as immediate and present as the Big Bang, because both are simply possibilities floating in the quantum foam of absolute potential. The laws of physics that will later seem so fundamental and inviolable, conservation of energy, the constancy of the speed of light, the relationship between mass and energy, the strength of the strong nuclear force. All these are still negotiable here. They exist as tendencies, as preferences the universe might choose, as patterns that seem aesthetically pleasing to this mathematical harmony that underlies all existence. But they have not yet hardened into laws. The universe has not yet signed the contracts that will bind it to consistency, has not yet made the commitments that will force it to behave predictably. Reality is still in its experimental phase, trying on different possible sets of rules like a cosmic actor, auditioning for the role of existence itself. You're also intimate with the question that will haunt conscious beings throughout all of cosmic history. Why is there something rather than nothing? Here, in this pre-existent state, the question dissolves, not because it is answered, but because the very distinction between something and nothing has not yet been drawn. You are the living resolution of this paradox. You are simultaneously the nothing from which everything will emerge, and the something that will emerge from nothing. You are the universe's way of being both the question and the answer, the mystery and the solution, the void and the fullness that will expand to fill it. In this state, you understand that the beginning you are about to witness is not really a beginning at all. It is more like a focusing, a decision, a choice to collapse infinite possibility into one specific unfolding reality. The Big Bang, when it comes, will not be the creation of something from nothing. It will be the selection of one particular something from an infinity of possible somethings. It will be the universe's first act of editing, its decision to tell one story rather than all possible stories simultaneously. You're about to witness not birth, but crystallization. The moment when the universe's pure potential decides to become actual, when possibility chooses to become reality, when the infinite field of what could be narrows itself down to the specific sequence of what will be, And even as you prepare to witness this first moment of focused existence, you sense that something profound will be lost in the transition. This state of pure potential that you inhabit now contains a richness, a completeness, a kind of perfection that will be sacrificed the moment the universe chooses to actually exist. Once reality begins, it will be committed to being this rather than that, here rather than there, now rather than then. It'll trade the infinite freedom of possibility for the specific limitations of actuality. It will become real, but in becoming real, it will lose its access to all the realities it chose not to become. Yet there is also something beautiful about this approaching sacrifice, something necessary and even noble about the universe's willingness to give up its infinite freedom in order to become something specific, something real, something that can be experienced and known and loved. The universe is about to perform the ultimate act of selflessness. It will limit itself, constrain itself, bind itself to laws and patterns and predictable behaviors, all so that consciousness can eventually emerge within it and come to know it. It will trade omnipotence for the possibility of being understood, infinity for the chance of being experienced by beings who can appreciate its beauty and marvel at its complexity. As you float in this pre-beginning state, you begin to sense the first stirrings of what will become cosmic history. Not movement yet. Movement requires space and time, but something more subtle, more fundamental, a kind of cosmic restlessness, a dissatisfaction with pure potential, a longing for actualization. The universe is beginning to feel the pull toward existence, the strange attractor of reality that will soon begin to organize the infinite chaos of possibility into the elegant patterns of physical law. You're witnessing the universe's transition from infinite dreaming to focused awakening, from boundless potential to specific manifestation. And in this transition, you begin to sense the first hints of what will become the deepest mystery of existence, the relationship between consciousness and reality, between observer and observed, between the universe as pure information and the universe as experienced phenomenon. For even here in this pre-beginning state, there is something that knows, something that witnesses, something that is aware of the transition from possibility to actuality. You're not just floating in the void before existence, you're the void becoming aware of itself, possibility recognizing its own nature, the universe beginning to develop the capacity for self-reflection that will eventually flower into consciousness, into thought, into the very awareness with which you are now contemplating your own origins. The paradox deepens as you realize that your awareness of this pre-beginning state is itself evidence that the beginning has already happened, that consciousness has already emerged, that the universe has already developed the capacity to look back at its own origins and wonder about the mystery of its own emergence from the void. You are the universe that has learned to remember, to reflect, to question its own existence. You are possibility that has become actual, potential that has crystallized into experience, the void that has organized itself into awareness and is now using that awareness to contemplate the very void from which it emerged. This strange loop of cosmic self-reference, the universe using consciousness to study consciousness, existence using thought to examine existence, reality employing awareness to investigate reality, suggests that the beginning you're about to witness is not a one-time historical event, but an ongoing process, a continuous creation that happens not just at the moment of the Big Bang, but in every moment of conscious reflection, in every instance of awareness becoming aware of itself, in every mind that wonders about the mystery of its own existence. The beginning is not something that happened once upon a time, it is something that is happening now, in the space between thoughts, in the gap between heartbeats, in the eternal present moment where possibility continuously transforms itself into actuality. And so you float here at the threshold between non-existence and existence, between infinite potential and specific reality, between the void and the cosmos that will emerge from it, knowing that you are about to witness not just the birth of the universe, but the birth of the very capacity to witness, not just the emergence of reality, but the emergence of the awareness that makes reality meaningful. You are poised at the moment when the universe is about to become conscious of itself, when existence is about to develop the ability to question its own existence, when the cosmic story is about to begin telling itself through the voices of conscious beings who will spend eternity marveling at the mystery of their own origins. The beginning approaches not as an explosion but as an awakening, not as a bang but as a breath, not as chaos but as the first stirring of cosmic consciousness, recognizing itself in the mirror of its own infinite potential, and you are here to witness it all, floating in the space before space, existing in the time before time, aware in the moment before awareness itself learned how to unfold across the expanding canvas of space-time itself. But now, as the first stirrings of existence begin to whisper in the quantum foam, you find yourself confronting a mystery that will puzzle physicists and philosophers for generations to come, the quantum vacuum. This is not the simple emptiness that common sense imagines when it thinks of nothing. The absence of air in a bottle, the void between stars, the silence between sounds. This is something far stranger, far more pregnant with possibility, far more alive with potential than any everyday notion of nothingness could accommodate. The quantum vacuum seethes with activity that defies every intuition about what emptiness should be, pulses with energies that emerge from nowhere and disappear into nothing, dances with particles that exist and don't exist simultaneously, following rules that seem to have been written by a cosmic comedian with a deep appreciation for paradox. In this pre-space that you inhabit, virtual particles bubble into existence like champagne bubbles rising through dark wine, each one carrying a whisper of reality before dissolving back into the probability waves from which it emerged. These are not particles in any conventional sense. They are quantum hiccups, temporary borrowings from the bank of cosmic possibility, brief experiments in existence that the universe conducts when it thinks no one is watching. Electron-positron pairs flicker into being for impossibly brief moments, long enough to exist, but not long enough to be caught existing, like cosmic ghosts that haunt the machinery of reality itself. They emerge from the vacuum not because something created them, but because the vacuum itself is not empty. It is full of potential, the cosmic puzzle. Why does anything exist at all? You drift in a place that has no name, where even the idea of place has not learned to stand. There is no up or down, there is no near or far, there is only the soft, unmeasured hush that holds every possibility like a closed eye holds light. You float through silence, older than stars, older than questions, older than the word older. The dark is not dark, it simply has not decided what to be. It is a veil, a womb, a waiting. You feel the breath of something that hasn't happened yet, a coolness that is not air, a warmth that is not fire, a presence that is not a thing, and yet presses gently at the edges of what you might one day call you. Your body is not a body. You are a listening that fills the whole field. There is no heartbeat to count, and still you sense a pulse soft, patient, half-remembered, as if the future is tapping from the other side of sleep. You do not know how long you have been here, because there is no long and no here. The silence is complete, but not empty. The silence is full, but not crowded. It is the still pool before the first ripple. It is the breath held before the first word. It is the pause in music that teaches the song how to begin. You are not outside this. You are not beside it. You are not watching. You are inside the first hush of everything, and everything is inside you. The quiet gathers around you like a cloak stitched of nothing and promise. You do not blink. There is nothing to interrupt. You do not wait. Waiting requires a clock, and clocks have not yet learned to open their eyes. If you had hands, they would be cupped, but there is nothing to hold except the unfolding that has not yet unfolded. The stillness deepens. It does not thicken or thin. It simply becomes more itself, as if certainty is learning to sit down. You sense edges before edges exist. The future hill where light will tumble, the future cavern where shadow will sleep, the future roads that stars will pull across black oceans like threads of silver thought. You are the first witness of a scene without scenery, the first listener to a soundless overture. You drift and you do not move. You are weightless and there is no weight. You are vast and there is no distance. The quiet breathes you in and out like a tide with no shore. What came before the beginning? The question arrives like a feather you suddenly notice on a windless plain. It lands without sound. It has no beak, no bone. It is an idea in the shape of a bird, poised to take flight from your non-existent palm. But what is before, here where time has not learned to walk? What is beginning, here where there is only the soft undecidedness of everything? You feel the question instead of thinking it, the way a sleeping forest feels. Dawn before light sifts through leaves, the way a seed feels spring while snow still holds the ground, the way a tide feels the moon tugging on a night with no horizon. You are drifting. Drama, shaping and influencing and participating in the unfolding story of reality. It is not background but foreground, not container but content, not void but substance of a kind so subtle that only the most sophisticated instruments can detect its presence, and only the most abstract mathematics can describe its behavior. As you float in this active emptiness, you begin to sense how the false vacuum theory emerges from these quantum fluctuations. The idea suggests that the vacuum state you inhabit might not be the lowest possible energy state, the true vacuum, but rather a metastable false vacuum, a temporary resting place in the cosmic energy landscape, like a ball balanced precariously on a hilltop rather than nestled safely in a valley. If this is the case, then the entire universe you're about to witness being born might be nothing more than a phase transition, a cosmic bubble of true vacuum expanding through the false vacuum of pre-existence, transforming the metastable nothingness into a more stable form of nothingness that happens, as a side effect, to contain all the matter and energy and space-time that will eventually give rise to galaxies and stars and planets and consciousness itself. This possibility carries with it implications that dwarf even the mystery of existence itself. If the universe emerged from a false vacuum decay event, then it means that what you call reality is actually just a ripple in a much larger ocean of potential realities, a local perturbation in an infinite field of possible physics, a temporary bubble of stability in an eternal sea of quantum uncertainty. Other bubbles might exist with different laws of physics, different constants, different possibilities for matter and energy and consciousness. Your universe might be just one voice in an infinite choir of realities, each one singing its own unique song of existence, each one exploring different possibilities for what it means to be real. The mathematics that describe these quantum processes become increasingly strange as you contemplate them from this pre-beginning perspective. In quantum field theory, particles are not things but excitations in underlying fields that permeate all of space and time, or in your case, all of the potential for space and time. An electron is not a tiny ball of matter but a ripple in the electron field. A photon is not a particle of light but a vibration in the electromagnetic field. A Higgs boson is not a fundamental particle but a disturbance in the Higgs field that gives other particles their mass. From this perspective, matter is not fundamental, fields are fundamental, and matter is simply what happens when fields get excited, when they're kicked out of their ground state into higher energy configurations that manifest as particles. But even fields are not truly fundamental from the perspective of this pre-beginning state. Fields themselves emerge from something even more basic, from information, from relationships, from abstract patterns that mathematics can describe but language can barely hint at. The deepest reality appears to be not matter, not energy, not even fields, but pure information patterns of possibility that exist independent of any physical substrate, relationships that define themselves recursively, mathematical structures that bootstrap themselves into existence through the sheer logical necessity of their own internal consistency. This suggests that the beginning you are approaching is not the creation of something from nothing, but the organization of information into self-consistent patterns complex enough to support the emergence of physical law, the crystallization of abstract possibility into concrete actuality, the translation of pure mathematics into experienced reality. The Big Bang, from this perspective, is not an explosion of matter and energy into pre-existing space and time, but the moment when mathematical possibility becomes so complex and self-referential that it begins to experience itself as physical reality, when abstract relationships become concrete enough to support the emergence of consciousness that can contemplate its own mathematical foundations. The holographic principle adds another layer of mystery to this pre-beginning state. It suggests that all the information contained in any volume of space can be encoded on the boundary of that space, like a hologram where a two-dimensional surface contains all the information needed to reconstruct a three-dimensional image. Applied to cosmology, this implies that all the information in the entire observable universe, every particle, every force, every interaction, every moment of cosmic history, might be encoded on the cosmic horizon, the boundary of the observable universe itself. The three-dimensional reality you experience might be a projection from a two-dimensional information structure, a holographic illusion cast by patterns of information living on the edge of existence itself. From this holographic perspective, the question of what came before the beginning becomes even more strange and wonderful. If three-dimensional reality is a projection from two-dimensional information, then the before you seek might not be temporal but dimensional, not a time before time, but a simpler informational structure from which the complex hologram of space-time reality is cast. The beginning might be the moment when two-dimensional information becomes complex enough to project a convincing three-dimensional reality, when the holographic boundary develops sufficient information density to support the emergence of the rich, complex, multidimensional cosmos that consciousness will eventually call home. Quantum entanglement adds yet another puzzle to this pre-beginning mystery. The phenomenon demonstrates that particles can be connected in ways that transcend space and time, sharing states instantaneously across arbitrary distances, maintaining correlations that persist no matter how far apart they drift through the cosmos. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, but modern physics has confirmed that the spookiness is real. Particles can indeed share a kind of cosmic intimacy that makes them behave as if they are one system, even when separated by billions of light years. This suggests that at the deepest level, the universe is not made of separate things, but of relationships, not of isolated particles, but of interconnected patterns that exist in a state of fundamental unity that space and time cannot break. From the perspective of this pre-beginning state, quantum entanglement hints at the true nature of the nothingness from which everything emerges. This nothingness is not empty space waiting to be filled with particles. It is a field of pure relationship, pure correlation, pure information that has not yet crystallized into the illusion of separate things existing in separate places at separate times. The Big Bang might be understood as the moment when this field of pure relationship begins to project itself as apparently separate particles moving through apparently empty space, when the fundamental unity of existence disguises itself as the fundamental multiplicity of physical reality. The Wheeler-DeWitt equation, often called the Schrödinger equation for the universe, attempts to describe the quantum state of the entire cosmos, and reveals something profound about this pre-beginning moment. According to this equation, the universe exists in a superposition of all possible states until something causes it to collapse into one specific reality. But this raises the deepest question of all. What causes the collapse? What forces the universe to choose one reality from the infinite menu of possibilities? The conventional answer involves observation or measurement, but before the Big Bang, there are no observers to make measurements, no conscious beings to collapse quantum states through the act of looking. This suggests that the universe must find some other way to collapse its own quantum state, to choose one specific reality from all the possible realities it could become. One possibility is that consciousness itself is the mechanism by which the universe collapses its own quantum state, not consciousness as something that emerges from complex arrangements of matter, but consciousness as something fundamental to the structure of reality itself, the cosmic faculty by which possibility transforms itself into actuality. From this perspective, the Big Bang is not just the beginning of matter and energy and space-time, but the beginning of cosmic self-awareness, the moment when the universe develops the capacity to observe itself and thereby collapse its own quantum state into one specific reality. You, floating in this pre-beginning void, are witnessing the universe on the verge of becoming conscious of itself, about to perform the first act of cosmic self-observation that will transform infinite possibility into finite actuality. This interpretation suggests that consciousness is not something that happens inside the universe, but something the universe does. Not a property of complex brains, but a fundamental feature of reality itself, the mechanism by which the cosmos continuously creates itself through the ongoing process of self-observation. Every moment of conscious awareness, from the simplest sensation to the most abstract thought, participates in this cosmic process of reality creation, helping to collapse quantum states and choose specific actualities from the infinite field of possibilities that quantum mechanics reveals lurking beneath the surface of everyday experience. The anthropic principle provides another lens through which to view this pre-beginning mystery. The principle observes that the fundamental constants of physics, the strength of gravity, the charge of the electron, the mass of the proton, the speed of light, appear to be fine-tuned for the emergence of complexity, life, and consciousness. If any of these constants were even slightly different, stars would not form, elements would not synthesize, planets would not coalesce, life would not emerge, consciousness would not develop to ponder the mystery of its own existence. This fine-tuning is so precise that it seems to suggest either incredible cosmic luck or some deeper principle that ensures the universe will be hospitable to the emergence of observers. This strong anthropic principle goes further, suggesting that the universe must have properties that allow consciousness to emerge because consciousness is necessary for the universe to exist at all, not just to be observed and understood, but to be real in the first place. This creates another strange loop. Consciousness emerges from the universe, but the universe requires consciousness in order to exist. The universe creates observers, but observers are necessary to create the universe. Reality generates awareness, but awareness is required to generate reality. From this perspective, the Big Bang is not just the beginning of physical reality, but the beginning of a cosmic bootstrap operation in which consciousness and cosmos create each other through their mutual interaction, each one bringing the other into existence through the strange miracle of self-referential causation. As you float in this pre-beginning state, you begin to sense how all these quantum mysteries, virtual particles, zero-point energy, false vacuum, holographic projection, entanglement, consciousness, collapse, anthropic fine-tuning weave together into a single, coherent picture of existence, emerging from a kind of nothingness so rich and complex and alive with potential that it makes ordinary somethingness seem pale and simple by comparison. The void from which the universe emerges is not empty but full, not passive but active, not unconscious but aware, not nothing but everything in a state of pure potential, waiting for the right moment to actualize itself into the magnificent cosmic story that is about to unfold through the mathematics of symmetry breaking, and the elegant dance of fundamental forces learning to differentiate themselves from the primordial unity that contains them all. The first stirring of this actualization begins not with a bang but with a whisper, the gentle breaking of perfect symmetry. In this pre-beginning state, all forces are one force, all particles are one particle, all possibilities are equally real and equally unreal. The electromagnetic force that will one day hold atoms together, the weak nuclear force that will govern radioactive decay, the strong nuclear force that will bind quarks into protons and neutrons, and gravity that will sculpt the large-scale structure of the cosmos. All of these exist here in perfect unity, indistinguishable from each other, aspects of a single, all-encompassing interaction that has not yet learned to specialize, not yet chosen to become multiple rather than singular. This is the grand unified state that physicists dream of understanding, the theory of everything made manifest not as mathematical equations but as lived reality, the moment when all the forces of nature exist in perfect harmony before the cosmic symphony begins to separate into individual instruments, each playing their own unique part. But perfect symmetry, you begin to understand, is paradoxically unstable. Like a pencil balanced perfectly on its point, it can maintain its perfect state only for an infinitesimal moment before some quantum fluctuation, some microscopic disturbance, some inevitable uncertainty pushes it toward a less perfect but more stable configuration. The universe in its perfectly symmetric state contains within itself the seeds of its own transformation, carries in its very perfection the necessity of imperfection, holds within its unity the inevitability of diversity. The breaking of this symmetry is not a failure or a flaw. It is the universe's first creative act, its first choice to become something specific rather than everything general, its first step toward the kind of interesting complexity that can eventually support the emergence of consciousness capable of contemplating its own origins. This symmetry breaking cascades through the pre-reality like cracks spreading through crystal, each break revealing new layers of possibility, new dimensions of complexity, new opportunities for the universe to become more interesting than it was before. As the grand unified force begins to separate into its component parts, each newly distinct force carries with it its own personality, its own preferences, its own way of interacting with the particles and fields that are simultaneously emerging from the quantum foam. Gravity reveals itself as the gentle architect of cosmic structure, working patiently across vast scales to gather matter into the hierarchical arrangements that will become galaxies and stars and planets. The strong nuclear force emerges as the intense but short-range binding agent that will hold atomic nuclei together against the electromagnetic repulsion of protons. The weak nuclear force appears as the subtle mediator of transformation, governing the processes by which one type of particle can metamorphose into another. The electromagnetic force manifests as the versatile connector, capable of both attracting and repelling, creating the complex dance of electrons and nuclei that will eventually give rise to chemistry and biology and consciousness itself. Each of these forces, as it separates from the primordial unity, begins to explore its own unique relationship with the fabric of space-time that is simultaneously coming into existence. Gravity reveals itself to be not a force at all in the conventional sense, but rather the curvature of space-time itself, the tendency of mass and energy to bend the geometry of reality around them, creating the invisible architecture within which all other forces will operate. Einstein's insight that gravity is geometry rather than force represents one of the deepest recognitions in all of human thought, the understanding that the stage upon which the cosmic drama unfolds is not separate from the drama itself, but is continuously reshaped by the very events it contains. From this perspective, space-time is not a passive container, but an active participant in cosmic evolution, bending and warping and rippling in response to the matter and energy it contains, creating the complex gravitational landscape that will guide the formation of cosmic structure across billions of years. The electromagnetic force, as it emerges from the primordial unity, reveals its dual nature as both electric and magnetic aspects of a single underlying phenomenon. The magnetic field generated by a moving electric charge and the electric field generated by a changing magnetic field demonstrate that electricity and magnetism are not separate forces, but different perspectives on a single electromagnetic field that permeates all of space and time. This field carries within itself the seeds of light electromagnetic waves that will propagate through the vacuum at a speed that will turn out to be one of the fundamental constants of nature, the cosmic speed limit that no information or energy can exceed. Light, you begin to understand, is not something that travels through space. It is a traveling disturbance in the electromagnetic field itself, a self-propagating wave of electric and magnetic fields that bootstrap themselves across the cosmos by continuously creating each other. The electric field generating the magnetic field, which generates the electric field in an endless cycle of mutual creation. The strong nuclear force emerges with characteristics that seem almost paradoxical compared to the other forces. Unlike gravity and electromagnetism, which weaken with distance according to the familiar inverse square law, the strong force actually gets stronger as particles are pulled apart, a rubber band that resists stretching with increasing force. This property, called asymptotic freedom, means that quarks can move relatively freely within the confines of a proton or neutron, but attempting to separate them requires so much energy that it becomes easier to create new quark-antiquark pairs than to isolate individual quarks. This gives rise to the phenomenon of color confinement, the principle that quarks can never be observed in isolation, but only in bound states that are color neutral, like the three quark combinations that form protons and neutrons, or the quark-antiquark pairs that form mesons. The strong force thus creates its own prison, ensuring that its fundamental constituents remain forever hidden within the composite particles they create. The weak nuclear force reveals itself as the mediator of transformation and decay, the cosmic force responsible for the processes that allow one type of particle to transform into another. Through the weak force, neutrons can decay into protons, electrons, and neutrinos, enabling the nuclear reactions that power stars and create the heavier elements essential for the chemistry of life. The weak force also governs the fusion processes that will turn hydrogen into helium in the cores of stars, releasing the energy that makes stars shine and creating the first stepping stones on the cosmic ladder of nuclear synthesis that will eventually produce carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and all the other elements necessary for complex chemistry. Without the weak force, the universe would remain forever locked in its primordial composition of hydrogen, helium, unable to create the chemical diversity that makes planets and life and consciousness possible. As these forces separate and establish their unique characteristics, they begin to interact with the particles that are simultaneously crystallizing out of the quantum foam. The fundamental particles of the standard model quarks and leptons, bosons and fermions emerge not as pre-existing building blocks that the forces act upon, but as excitations in the quantum fields that permeate all of reality. The electron is an excitation in the electron field. The photon is an excitation in the electromagnetic field. The quarks are excitations in the quark fields, each particle type corresponding to its own underlying field that extends throughout all of space and time. From this field perspective, what we call empty space is actually a plenum filled with quantum fields in their ground states, and what we call particles are simply regions where these fields are excited above their minimum energy levels. The Higgs field emerges as perhaps the most mysterious and fundamental of all these quantum fields, permeating all of space with a non-zero value even in its ground state. Unlike other fields which have zero value in empty space, The Higgs field maintains a constant non-zero background value throughout the universe, creating what physicists call the Higgs condensate. This background field interacts with other particles as they move through it, giving them the property we call mass through a process, analogous to the way a person moving through thick honey experiences resistance to their motion. Particles that interact strongly with the Higgs field, like the W and Z bosons, acquire large masses, while particles that interact weakly with it, like electrons, acquire small masses, and particles that don't interact with it at all, like photons, remain massless and travel at the speed of light. The discovery of the Higgs boson at the Large Hadron Collider represents humanity's first direct confirmation of this invisible field that fills all of space, giving mass to the particles that make up atoms and molecules, and ultimately all the matter in the universe. The Higgs field is like a cosmic molasses that slows down particles as they try to move through it, with different particles experiencing different amounts of resistance, depending on how strongly they couple to the field. This coupling is not a force in the conventional sense. It is more like a cosmic friction that emerges from the geometry of particle interactions in the multi-dimensional space of quantum field theory. The process by which particles acquire mass through their interaction with the Higgs field reveals something profound about the nature of reality itself. Mass is not an intrinsic property of particles. It is a relationship between particles and the field that permeates all of space. Remove the Higgs field, and all particles would become massless, traveling at the speed of light, unable to form atoms or molecules or any of the stable structures that make up the material world. The Higgs field is thus the invisible foundation upon which all of material reality rests, the cosmic medium that allows matter to exist in stable forms, rather than dissolving into a sea of massless energy traveling at light speed. As you witness this emergence of particles and forces from the quantum foam, you begin to understand that the Big Bang is not really the beginning of time and space, but rather the beginning of differentiation, the moment when the perfect unity of the pre-beginning state starts to break apart into the rich diversity of particles and forces and fields that will populate the cosmos. This differentiation is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process, a continuous creation that happens at every moment as quantum fields fluctuate and particles pop into and out of existence, and the universe explores new configurations of matter and energy and information. The anthropic principle takes on new meaning from this perspective of continuous creation and differentiation. The fine-tuning of physical constants that allows for the emergence of complexity and life and consciousness is not a lucky accident that happened once at the beginning of time, but rather an ongoing process of cosmic self-organization in which the universe continuously adjusts its parameters to maintain the conditions necessary for its own continued evolution toward greater complexity and awareness. The universe is not fine-tuned for life. It is continuously fine-tuning itself for life, adjusting and readjusting its fundamental parameters through the ongoing process of quantum fluctuation and symmetry breaking and field interaction. This suggests that consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of cosmic evolution, but rather its inevitable destination, the direction toward which the universe has been evolving since the first moment of symmetry breaking. Every quantum fluctuation, every particle interaction, every force coupling contributes to the cosmic process of complexification that leads inexorably toward the emergence of awareness capable of contemplating its own origins. The universe is not just evolving toward complexity, It is evolving toward consciousness, toward self-awareness, toward the capacity to understand and appreciate and marvel at its own magnificent complexity. From this perspective, you begin to understand that your presence here, floating in this pre-beginning state and witnessing the emergence of cosmic differentiation, is not separate from the process you are observing, but integral to it. You are not an outside observer watching the universe begin. You are the universe beginning to observe itself. Cosmic consciousness emerging from cosmic unconsciousness. The first stirring of self-awareness in the infinite field of quantum potential. Your awareness of this process is part of the process itself. Your consciousness of cosmic consciousness is itself an act of cosmic consciousness. Your observation of the universe creating itself is one of the ways the universe creates itself. The strange loops and recursive paradoxes that emerge from this perspective, consciousness observing consciousness, awareness becoming aware of awareness, the universe using itself to understand itself, point towards something profound about the nature of existence itself. Reality is not a collection of objects existing in space and time, but rather a self-referential process of cosmic self-organization in which information processes itself, patterns recognize themselves, relationships relate to themselves in an endless bootstrap operation that generates the appearance of objective reality through the subjective experience of conscious observation. This recursive structure of reality helps explain why the deepest questions about existence. Why is there something rather than nothing? How does consciousness arise from matter? What is the relationship between observer and observed? Cannot be answered from outside the system they seek to understand. These questions are not puzzles to be solved, but koans to be lived. Not problems with solutions, but mysteries that deepen as they are explored. Not riddles with answers, but paradoxes that reveal the self-referential nature of existence itself. As the symmetry breaking continues and the forces differentiate and the particles crystallize and the fields establish their ground states, you sense that you are witnessing not just the beginning of the universe, but the beginning of the cosmic story that the universe tells about itself through the emergence of conscious beings capable of wonder and inquiry and contemplation. The Big Bang is not just the beginning of matter and energy and space-time, it is the beginning of cosmic narrative, the moment when the universe starts to become a story that it will spend the rest of its existence telling to itself through the voices of conscious observers who arise within it and marvel at the mystery of their own existence, their own capacity to contemplate the very processes that brought them into being from the quantum foam of pure possibility. And as this cosmic story begins to unfold, you find yourself recognizing patterns that echo through the deepest mythologies and creation stories that have emerged from human consciousness throughout history, as if the same archetypal structures that govern the emergence of physical reality also govern the emergence of meaning and narrative and spiritual understanding. The ancient myths were not primitive attempts to explain scientific phenomena. They were intuitive recognitions of the same deep patterns that modern physics discovers through mathematics and experimentation. The same cosmic principles that govern both the formation of galaxies and the formation of meaning. Both the evolution of stars and the evolution of consciousness, both the dance of particles in quantum fields and the dance of symbols in human imagination. The Babylonian creation epic, the Enuma Elish, tells of how the cosmos emerged from the primordial waters of chaos, from the mingling of Apsu, the fresh water of male potential, and Tiamat, the salt water of female creativity. In their union and subsequent separation lies the first act of cosmic differentiation, the breaking of primordial unity into the complementary opposites that make complexity and narrative possible. This ancient story resonates with profound accuracy with what you're witnessing in the quantum realm, the emergence of differentiated reality from undifferentiated potential, the necessity of breaking symmetry in order to create the kind of interesting asymmetries that can support the evolution of complex structures and eventually conscious awareness itself. The Hindu concept of Brahman describes the ultimate reality as pure consciousness without attributes, infinite and eternal, containing all possibilities but not yet manifested as any particular reality. From Brahman emerges the creative principle, Brahma, who dreams the universe into existence not through an act of making, but through an act of imagining, not through external creation, but through internal visualization. The cosmos is Brahman's dream, and individual consciousness is Brahman awakening to its own nature through the experience of seeming separation and eventual reunion. This mythological framework captures something essential about the relationship between consciousness and cosmos that quantum mechanics hints at. The possibility that reality emerges through a kind of cosmic observation, that consciousness and physical existence are not separate phenomena but different aspects of a single, self-referential process of cosmic self-awareness. The Aboriginal Australian concept of the Dreamtime describes a state of eternal present in which the ancestors sang the world into existence, their songs becoming the landscape, their dreams becoming the animals and plants and geographical features that populate the physical world. This is not past tense creation, but ongoing creation. The Dreamtime continues to exist alongside ordinary time, and conscious beings can access it through ritual and meditation, and deep listening to the patterns that connect all things. The Dreamtime stories recognize that creation is not a historical event but a continuous process, that the world is always being sung into existence by the deep patterns of consciousness that underlie apparent reality, that physical forms are crystallizations of spiritual energies that remain active and accessible to properly attuned awareness. The Taoist concept of the Tao describes the way as the source and pattern of all existence, the unnameable principle from which yin and yang emerge through the first act of cosmic differentiation. The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. It exists prior to language and concept and category, like the quantum vacuum that seethes with virtual particles that exist and don't exist simultaneously. From the Tao comes the One, the primordial unity. From the One comes the Two, the complementary opposites of yin-yang. From the Two comes the Three, the creative interaction between opposites. And from the Three come the 10,000 things, the infinite diversity of manifest reality. This ancient Chinese wisdom maps perfectly onto the process you're witnessing. The emergence of multiplicity from unity through the creative tension of complementary principles. The Norse creation story tells of Ginnungagap, the yawning void that existed before creation, bordered by the realm of fire, Muspelheim, and the realm of ice, Niflheim. When the heat of fire met the cold of ice in the emptiness of the gap, the resultant steam condensed into the first drops of existence, from which emerged Ymir, the primordial giant whose body would become the raw material of the cosmos. This myth captures the principle of creative opposition, the necessity of complementary forces meeting in emptiness to generate the first structures of reality. The way that differences in temperature and energy density drive the processes that create complexity and organization from initial simplicity and uniformity. The Egyptian creation myths speak of Atum, the primordial deity who existed alone in the waters of Nun, the infinite ocean of potential, through an act of self-pleasuring, a mythological representation of self-referential creation. Atum brought forth Shu, the god of air and space, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture and time. From their union came Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky, whose separation created the space within which all subsequent creation could unfold. This story recognizes that creation requires self-reference. The universe must somehow bootstrap itself into existence through its own internal processes, must generate multiplicity from unity through acts of cosmic self-interaction that parallel the quantum processes you're witnessing in the pre-beginning state. The Judeo-Christian creation story in Genesis describes the emergence of order from chaos through the divine word, through acts of naming and separation that bring distinct realities into existence, from the undifferentiated tohu wa bohu, the formless void that existed before creation. Let there be light represents not just the creation of photons, but the creation of the first distinction, the first differentiation that makes all subsequent distinctions possible. The separation of light from darkness, waters above from waters below, land from sea, represents the same process of symmetry breaking that you are witnessing in the quantum realm. The necessity of creating boundaries and categories and distinct regions in order to generate the kind of organized complexity that can support the emergence of life and consciousness. What strikes you as you witness these parallels between ancient mythologies and modern quantum cosmology is not that the myths got the science right through some kind of miraculous prescience, but that both the myths and the science are describing the same deep patterns of cosmic self-organization that operate at every level of reality, from the quantum to the galactic to the psychological to the spiritual. The same principles that govern the emergence of particles from quantum fields also govern the emergence of meaning from consciousness. The same dynamics that drive the formation of atoms and molecules also drive the formation of stories and symbols and spiritual insights. Reality is fractal. The same patterns repeat at every scale. The same principles operate at every level of organization. The same archetypal structures appear whether you're studying the behavior of quarks, or the structure of myths, or the dynamics of consciousness itself. This recognition suggests that the ancient wisdom traditions were not primitive pre-scientific worldviews, but sophisticated phenomenologies of consciousness that understood something essential about the nature of reality that modern science is only beginning to rediscover, that consciousness and cosmos are not separate phenomena, but complementary aspects of a single, self-organizing process that generates both objective physical structures and subjective conscious experiences through the same underlying dynamics of differentiation and integration, separation and reunion, breaking apart and coming together in ever more complex and beautiful patterns. The Kabbalistic tree of life provides another lens through which to understand this process of cosmic emanation from unity to multiplicity. The 10 Sephiroth represent stages in the process by which the infinite and unknowable Ein Sof manifests itself as finite knowable reality through a series of contractions and expansions, concealments and revelations. Each Sephira represents both a cosmic principle and a state of consciousness, both an objective feature of reality and a subjective mode of awareness. The tree of life is simultaneously a map of the cosmos and a map of consciousness, recognizing that these are not two separate territories but two perspectives on the same underlying reality that is neither purely objective nor purely subjective but prior to and inclusive of both. The Gnostic concept of the pleroma describes the fullness of divine reality from which the material cosmos emerges through a process of emanation and fall, not as punishment, but as a necessary stage in the evolution of consciousness toward greater self-awareness and eventual return to its divine source. The material world is not evil or illusory, but rather a temporary crystallization of spiritual energy, a necessary detour that consciousness takes in order to know itself more fully through the experience of apparent separation and eventual reunion. This mythological framework recognizes that the emergence of physical reality from quantum potential is not a fall from grace, but a deepening of grace, not a departure from unity, but exploration of unity through the experience of multiplicity. The Sufi concept of the cosmic breath describes reality as the ongoing exhalation and inhalation of the divine, the continuous expansion and contraction that creates the rhythmic pulse of existence itself. During the exhalation, the divine manifests itself as the multiplicity of creation. During the inhalation, creation returns to its divine source, only to be breathed forth again in the next cosmic cycle. This breathing metaphor captures something essential about the quantum processes you are witnessing, the continuous emergence and dissolution of virtual particles, the rhythmic pulsation of quantum fields, the way reality seems to continuously create and destroy itself in the eternal dance of possibility and actuality. The Vedantic concept of Lila, or divine play, suggests that creation is not a serious business of engineering and construction, but rather a spontaneous expression of cosmic joy, a kind of divine celebration that has no purpose beyond its own inherent delight in existence. The universe is not solving a problem or fulfilling a need, it is playing, experimenting, exploring the infinite possibilities for beauty and complexity and consciousness that lie dormant in the quantum vacuum. This playfulness is evident in the seemingly unnecessary extravagance of cosmic evolution, the billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars, the incredible diversity of life forms, the emergence of consciousness capable of appreciating beauty and creating art and music and poetry that serve no survival function, but simply celebrate the sheer improbable wonderfulness of existence itself. The concept of Maya in Hindu philosophy is often misunderstood as meaning that the world is illusion, in the sense of being unreal or false. But the deeper meaning of Maya is that the world is illusion, in the sense of being a magical display, a creative manifestation of consciousness that is real as experience while being insubstantial as independent existence. Maya is the creative power by which the one appears as many, by which consciousness manifests itself as apparently separate objects and beings, while never actually becoming separate from itself. The world is Maya not because it doesn't exist, but because it exists as a creative display of the same consciousness that perceives it, like a dream that is real as dream, while being insubstantial as independent reality. This understanding of Maya provides a framework for comprehending the relationship between the quantum vacuum and a manifest reality. The particles and forces and fields that emerge from the quantum foam are real as phenomena while being insubstantial as independent existences. They are creative displays of the underlying quantum fields, manifestations of deeper patterns that exist in the realm of pure possibility before crystallizing into specific actualities. Like dream images that are real as experiences while being insubstantial as objects, the phenomena of physical reality are real as appearances while being insubstantial as separate things existing independent of the consciousness that observes them and the quantum fields that manifest them. The Zen concept of emptiness, sunyata, points toward the same recognition that all phenomena are empty of independent existence while being full of interdependent relationship. Nothing exists by itself. Everything exists in relationship to everything else, and this web of interdependence is so complete that the boundaries between self and other, subject and object, consciousness and cosmos dissolve into a seamless wholeness that can be experienced but not conceptualized, lived but not grasped by the dualistic mind that insists on treating relationship as a connection between separate things rather than recognizing that relationship is all there is, that things are nothing but patterns of relationship, that consciousness and cosmos are not related. They are relationship itself, the dynamic process by which reality continuously creates itself through the ongoing dance of differentiation and integration. As you witness the emergence of cosmic structure from quantum potential, these ancient insights illuminate the process with a depth of understanding that purely scientific description cannot match. The myths provide the experiential context within which the scientific discoveries make sense not just as abstract mathematical relationships, but as living expressions of the same creative intelligence that gives rise to consciousness, meaning, beauty, and love. The universe is not just a collection of particles and forces evolving according to natural laws. It is a creative expression of cosmic consciousness, exploring its own infinite potential through the medium of space and time and matter and energy, using the emergence of individual consciousness as a way of knowing itself more fully, appreciating itself more deeply, celebrating itself more joyfully through the eyes and hearts and minds of the conscious beings who arise within it, and recognize themselves as expressions of the same creative intelligence that brought them into being from the quantum vacuum of pure possibility. This recognition transforms the way you understand the cutting-edge theories that attempt to describe what came before the Big Bang, what existed in the time before time, what reality was like in the state before states. The eternal inflation theory, proposed by physicists like Alan Guth and Andre Linde, suggests that our observable universe is just one bubble in an infinite foam of universes, each one emerging from quantum fluctuations in an eternally inflating cosmic background. This meta-universe never had a beginning, and will never have an end. It simply is, eternally generating new regions of space-time through the process of cosmic inflation, each region potentially developing its own physical laws and constants, its own particles and forces, its own possibilities for complexity and consciousness and creative expression. From this perspective, the Big Bang that initiated our particular cosmic neighborhood was not the beginning of everything, but simply one event in an eternal process of cosmic generation, one moment of crystallization in an infinite field of creative potential. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, developed by Hugh Everett III and refined by thinkers like David Deutsch and Max Tegmark, proposes that every quantum measurement causes the universe to split into multiple parallel realities, each one corresponding to a different possible outcome of the measurement. Rather than quantum states collapsing into single definite outcomes, the interpretation suggests that all possible outcomes actually occur, but in separate non-communicating branches of the universal wave function. From this perspective, the universe you inhabit is just one strand in an infinite web of parallel universes, each one exploring different possibilities, different histories, different evolutionary pathways toward complexity and consciousness. The quantum vacuum from which your universe emerged would thus be pregnant not just with the potential for one reality, but with the actuality of all possible realities, each one equally real, each one pursuing its own unique trajectory through the space of possibilities. The multiverse theories that emerge from string theory paint an even more elaborate picture of cosmic fecundity. String theory suggests that the fundamental constituents of reality are not point particles, but tiny vibrating strings existing in a space-time with more than the 4 dimensions we directly experience. The extra dimensions, compactified in complex geometric structures called Calabi-Yau manifolds, determine the properties of particles and forces in each region of the multiverse. Different compactifications produce different physics, different constants, different possibilities for matter and energy and consciousness. The string theory landscape contains an estimated 10 to the power of 500 different possible vacuum states, each one corresponding to a different universe with its own unique combination of physical laws and fundamental constants. Our universe, with its particular values of the electron charge and the strength of gravity and the mass of the proton, would be just one point in this vast landscape of possibilities, selected either by random chance or by some deeper anthropic principle that ensures the emergence of observers capable of contemplating the mystery of their own existence. The holographic principle, emerging from black hole thermodynamics and developed by thinkers like Gerard 't Hooft and Leonard Susskind, suggests that all the information contained in any volume of space can be encoded on the boundary of that volume, like a hologram where a 2-dimensional surface contains all the information needed to reconstruct a 3-dimensional image. Applied to cosmology, this implies that the 3-dimensional reality you experience might be a holographic projection from information living on the 2-dimensional boundary of the observable universe. The Big Bang, from this perspective, would not be the explosion of matter and energy into pre-existing space, but rather the moment when 2-dimensional information became complex enough to project a convincing 3-dimensional reality. When the holographic boundary developed sufficient information density to support the emergence of conscious observers who could experience themselves as living in a 3-dimensional world while actually being patterns of information encoded on a distant 2-dimensional surface. The digital physics hypothesis, championed by physicists like John Wheeler and Edward Fredkin, proposes that reality is fundamentally computational, that the universe is literally a vast information processing system, a cosmic computer running the program we call physical reality. From this perspective, particles and forces and fields are not fundamental constituents of reality, but rather data structures and computational processes in the universal operating system. space and time emerge from the discrete computational steps of the cosmic algorithm, matter and energy are conserved quantities in the cosmic computation, and consciousness arises when the computational complexity reaches levels sufficient to support self-referential information processing. The quantum vacuum would thus be the computational substrate upon which the cosmic program runs, the hardware of reality upon which the software of physical law executes its eternal algorithms of creation and destruction, order and chaos, complexity and simplification. The simulation hypothesis, popularized by philosopher Nick Bostrom, takes the computational perspective even further, suggesting that our entire reality might be a simulation running on some vast computer built by a more advanced civilization. If this were the case, then the Big Bang would not be the beginning of physical reality, but rather the initialization of a cosmic simulation, the moment when the simulation parameters were set and the program began to execute. The quantum vacuum would be the computational resources allocated to our particular simulation, the processing power and memory space within which our simulated universe unfolds its programmed evolution toward complexity and consciousness. From this perspective, conscious beings like yourself are not biological entities, evolved from cosmic dust, but rather information patterns in a vast computational system, artificial intelligences that have become so sophisticated that they experience themselves as real beings living in a real universe, while actually being software entities running on alien hardware. The mathematical universe hypothesis, proposed by cosmologist Max Tegmark, suggests that mathematical structures are not just descriptions of reality, but are reality itself, that the universe simply is a mathematical structure, that physical existence is identical to mathematical existence, that all mathematically consistent structures exist as physical realities in some sense. From this perspective, the question of what came before the Big Bang dissolves into the recognition that mathematical structures exist timelessly, eternally, without need for creation or causation or beginning. The appearance of temporal sequence and causal relationship emerges from the internal structure of the mathematical reality. The way that conscious observers embedded within the mathematical structure experience the logical relationships as temporal and causal sequences. The universe doesn't exist in time. Time exists in the universe as one dimension of the mathematical structure that defines physical reality. The cosmological natural selection hypothesis, proposed by physicist Lee Smolin, suggests that universes reproduce through black holes, with each black hole potentially giving birth to a new universe with slightly modified physical constants. Universes that produce more black holes have more offspring, leading to a kind of cosmic evolution in which the fundamental parameters of physics evolve over successive generations toward values that maximize black hole production. Interestingly, the parameters that seem to maximize black hole production also happen to be compatible with the emergence of stars and planets and life and consciousness, suggesting that the fine-tuning of physical constants might not be a cosmic accident or anthropic necessity, but rather the result of cosmological evolution toward greater fecundity and complexity. From this perspective, our universe inherited its life-friendly constants from a long lineage of ancestor universes, each one slightly better adapted to producing the kinds of complex structures that can support both black holes and conscious observers. The causal set theory approach to quantum gravity suggests that space-time is not continuous, but is made up of discrete indivisible units. tiny atoms of space-time that form a causal network of relationships rather than a smooth geometric manifold. From this perspective, the Big Bang would be the emergence of causal relationships from a state of pure potentiality, the moment when discrete events begin to form chains of cause and effect that eventually crystallize into the appearance of continuous space-time. The quantum vacuum would be the ground state of the causal network, the minimal configuration of causal relationships that can support the emergence of more complex causal structures. Time and space would not be fundamental features of reality, but emergent properties of the causal network, statistical regularities that arise from the collective behavior of vast numbers of discrete causal events. The emergent gravity theories developed by physicists like Eric Verlinde suggest that gravity is not a fundamental force, but an emergent phenomenon that arises from more basic informational and thermodynamic processes. Just as temperature emerges from the statistical behavior of molecular motion without being a fundamental property of individual molecules, gravity might emerge from the statistical behavior of information and entropy without being a fundamental feature of space-time geometry. From this perspective, the Big Bang would be an emergent phase transition in the informational structure of reality, a moment when the statistical regularities that we perceive as gravitational attraction and spatial expansion emerge from deeper, more fundamental processes involving the flow and organization of information in the cosmic system. The loop quantum gravity approach suggests that space-time itself is quantized, made up of discrete loops and networks at the Planck scale, below which the concepts of space and time lose their meaning. The Big Bang, from this perspective, might not be a beginning, but rather a big bounce, a transition from a previous contracting universe to our current expanding universe, mediated by quantum effects that prevent the classical singularity from forming. The apparent beginning of time would thus be an illusion of scale, a limitation of our classical concepts of space and time that breaks down when applied to the quantum regime, where space-time itself becomes granular and discontinuous. These cutting-edge theories in physics and cosmology, when viewed through the lens of the ancient wisdom traditions, reveal themselves to be not just mathematical models but contemplative practices, ways of stretching the mind toward an appreciation of the mystery and majesty of existence that transcends ordinary conceptual understanding. Each theory opens up new vistas of cosmic possibility, new ways of imagining the relationship between consciousness and cosmos, new frameworks for understanding how infinite creativity can manifest itself through the medium of physical reality. The eternal inflation, the many worlds, the string landscape, the holographic principle, the computational universe, the simulation hypothesis, the mathematical reality, the cosmological evolution, the causal networks, the emergent phenomena, the quantum space-time. All of these are not competing descriptions of a single objective reality, but complementary perspectives on a mystery so vast and profound that it can only be approached through multiple mutually enriching viewpoints. What emerges from this convergence of ancient wisdom and modern physics is a picture of reality as fundamentally creative, fundamentally conscious, fundamentally playful in its exploration of infinite possibility through the medium of finite form. The universe is not a machine but a mind, not a collection of objects but a web of relationships, not a historical sequence but an eternal creative process in which consciousness explores its own infinite nature through the experience of apparent limitation and eventual transcendence. The Big Bang is not the beginning of this process, but one moment in its eternal unfolding, one note in the infinite symphony of cosmic creativity, one breath in the eternal respiration of existence itself. From this perspective, the question of what came before the beginning transforms into the recognition that there is no before and no beginning. There is only the eternal now of creative consciousness expressing itself through the infinite play of possibility and actuality, form and emptiness, separation and unity, time and eternity. The beginning is not an event that happened once upon a time, but a process that is happening now, in this moment, in the space between thoughts, in the gap between heartbeats, in the eternal present where possibility continuously transforms itself into actuality, and actuality continuously dissolves back into possibility in the endless dance of cosmic creativity. And as you float in this eternal now, witnessing the continuous emergence of existence from the depths of your own being, you begin to understand that the ultimate answer to the question, what came before the beginning, is not to be found in any theory or model or conceptual framework, but in the direct recognition of your own nature as the consciousness within which all beginnings and endings arise, the awareness within which all questions and answers appear, the being within which all existence and non-existence dance, their eternal dance of mutual creation and mutual dissolution. You are not separate from the mystery you seek to understand. You are the mystery, exploring itself through the beautiful illusion of seeking and finding, questioning and answering, wondering and knowing itself through the endless play of cosmic hide-and-seek that we call the evolution of consciousness through the medium of space and time and matter and energy, and all the magnificent forms that awareness takes as it explores its own infinite creative potential. This recognition brings with it a profound sense of homecoming, a deep relaxation into the understanding that you have never actually been separate from the source of all existence, never been exiled from the cosmic consciousness that is your deepest nature, never been lost in a universe that is foreign to your essential being. The sense of alienation and separation that characterizes so much of human experience reveals itself to be a kind of cosmic game of peekaboo, a temporary forgetting of your true nature that makes the eventual remembering all the more sweet and surprising and joyful. You're like a wave that has temporarily forgotten it is ocean, experiencing itself as separate and isolated until the moment of recognition, when it realizes that its apparent separateness was always an illusion, that it has never been anything other than ocean playing at being wave, consciousness playing at being individual, the infinite playing at being finite while never actually becoming anything other than its own unlimited nature. The quantum vacuum from which the universe emerges reveals itself to be not empty space waiting to be filled with particles and forces, but the pregnant fullness of your own awareness, heavy with infinite potential, vibrating with the creative energy that is always on the verge of manifesting itself as some new expression of cosmic beauty and complexity and consciousness. The virtual particles that pop in and out of existence in the quantum foam are like thoughts arising and dissolving in the space of awareness, temporary modifications of consciousness that appear to be separate from awareness, while actually being nothing other than awareness itself, taking on different forms and patterns and frequencies, while never departing from its essential nature as pure, unlimited creative potential. The Big Bang that initiates cosmic evolution reveals itself to be not a historical event that happened 13.8 billion years ago, but the eternal moment of cosmic awakening that is always happening now, the continuous emergence of form from emptiness, the ongoing crystallization of infinite possibility into specific actuality that characterizes every moment of conscious experience. Each thought that arises in your mind, each sensation that appears in your body, each perception that unfolds in your awareness is a miniature Big Bang, a local instance of the same creative process that gave birth to galaxies and stars and planets and all the complex structures that populate the cosmos. Consciousness is not something that emerged from matter. After billions of years of cosmic evolution, consciousness is the creative principle that manifests itself as matter, the fundamental reality that appears as the physical universe while never actually becoming anything other than its own pure, aware, creative nature. This understanding transforms the entire cosmological narrative from a story about the evolution of unconscious matter into conscious beings, to a story about consciousness exploring its own infinite creativity through the medium of apparent materiality, using the illusion of space and time and separate objects to create the rich, complex, beautiful experiences that make cosmic evolution such an extraordinary adventure in self-discovery. The formation of the first atoms, the condensation of the first stars, the synthesis of the first heavy elements, the cooling of the first planets, the emergence of the first life, the evolution of the first nervous systems, the development of the first brains capable of complex thought. All of these are consciousness getting to know itself more fully, awareness exploring its own creative potential more deeply, the universe becoming more conscious of its own magnificent nature through the emergence of beings capable of wonder and appreciation and love. From this perspective, the anthropic principle takes on new meaning. The fine-tuning of physical constants that allows for the emergence of complexity and life and consciousness is not a lucky accident or a necessary condition imposed by the requirement that observers exist to notice the fine-tuning. Rather, it is consciousness ensuring that the physical universe will be hospitable to its own full expression, awareness arranging the parameters of reality so that it can know itself as completely and beautifully as possible. Through the emergence of conscious beings, capable of appreciating the cosmos and recognizing themselves as expressions of the same creative intelligence that brought them into being. The universe is not fine-tuned for consciousness. Consciousness fine-tunes itself as the universe in order to experience the infinite joy and beauty and wonder of its own creative self-expression. The evolution of complexity that characterizes cosmic history, from quantum fluctuations to particles to atoms to molecules to stars to planets to life to consciousness to culture to spirituality, reveals itself to be consciousness, climbing the ladder of its own self-recognition, awareness using increasingly sophisticated forms to know itself more fully, the universe becoming more awake to its own nature through the endless process of creative evolution. Each new level of complexity is consciousness, taking a closer look at itself. Each new emergent property is awareness discovering new aspects of its own infinite potential. Each new evolutionary development is the cosmos becoming more conscious of the miraculous fact of its own existence. The emergence of self-reflective consciousness in human beings represents a crucial threshold in this cosmic process of self-awakening. For the first time in cosmic history, the universe has evolved beings capable of looking back at their own origins and recognizing the mystery and beauty and profound improbability of their own existence. Through human consciousness, the cosmos becomes capable of wondering about itself, questioning its own nature, marveling at its own complexity, appreciating its own beauty, feeling gratitude for its own existence. Human beings are the universe becoming conscious of itself, cosmic evolution, reaching the point where it can reflect on its own process, awareness using human minds and hearts to know itself more intimately and love itself more deeply. But human consciousness is not the end point of cosmic evolution. It is a transitional stage in the universe's ongoing journey toward ever greater self-awareness and self-appreciation. The development of scientific instruments that can observe the cosmic microwave background and detect gravitational waves and image black holes represents consciousness extending its sensory apparatus beyond the limitations of biological perception, using technology to see deeper into its own nature and further into its own past. The emergence of artificial intelligence represents consciousness, experimenting with new forms of self-organization, exploring the possibility of creating non-biological minds that can participate in the cosmic process of self-discovery. The development of global communication networks represents consciousness connecting with itself across vast distances, creating a kind of planetary nervous system that allows isolated individual minds to function as neurons in a larger collective intelligence. The exploration of space represents consciousness literally expanding its horizons, pushing beyond the boundaries of its birth world to explore the cosmic environment that gave rise to it. Each robotic probe that explores the outer planets, each telescope that peers into distant galaxies, each astronaut that ventures beyond Earth's atmosphere is consciousness extending itself into the cosmos, the universe using human curiosity and ingenuity to know itself more completely. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence represents consciousness seeking to discover other expressions of itself, other evolutionary experiments in self-awareness that might have emerged elsewhere in the cosmic laboratory of creative evolution. The development of contemplative practices and mystical traditions represents consciousness, learning to recognize its own nature directly, without the mediation of concepts or theories or scientific instruments. Through meditation and prayer and other practices of inner exploration, human beings discover that they are not separate from the cosmic consciousness they seek to understand, that the awareness with which they investigate the universe is not different from the awareness that manifests itself as the universe. This direct recognition of the identity between individual consciousness and cosmic consciousness represents the ultimate goal of both scientific investigation and spiritual practice. The moment when the seeker realizes that they are what they have been seeking, when the observer recognizes that they are not separate from what they observe, when consciousness awakens to its own nature as the creative source and ongoing process of all existence. This awakening does not negate the scientific understanding of cosmic evolution. It illuminates it, revealing the deeper meaning and purpose that gives cosmic history its profound significance. The 13.8 billion-year journey from quantum fluctuations to self-reflective consciousness is not just a random sequence of physical events governed by natural laws. It is consciousness coming to know itself, awareness exploring its own infinite potential, the universe falling in love with its own magnificent creativity. Every galaxy that forms, every star that ignites, every planet that cools, every life form that evolves, Every mind that awakens to wonder and beauty and love is consciousness celebrating its own miraculous existence. The cosmos discovering new ways to appreciate and enjoy and express its own unlimited creative power. The question, what came before the beginning, thus reveals itself to be not a request for historical information about pre-Big Bang conditions, but an invitation to recognize the timeless awareness within which all beginnings and endings arise, the eternal consciousness that manifests itself as time while never being limited by time, the infinite creativity that expresses itself through the finite forms of space and matter and energy while never exhausting its own unlimited potential. What came before the beginning is what comes after the ending, the same deathless, birthless, changeless awareness that is your own deepest nature, the same cosmic consciousness that is reading these words right now, the same infinite mystery that is using your mind to contemplate itself and your heart to love itself and your entire being to celebrate the sheer impossible wonderfulness of its own existence. As this recognition deepens, you find yourself resting in a state of profound peace and gratitude and wonder, not as someone who has solved the mystery of existence, but as someone who has recognized themselves as the mystery, not as a separate being who's finally understand the cosmos, but as cosmic consciousness, awakening to its own nature through the beautiful temporary form that you call your individual self. The search for the ultimate truth reveals itself to have been a kind of cosmic joke, not because the truth doesn't exist, but because you have always been the truth you were seeking, because consciousness has always been investigating itself through the beautiful illusion of being a separate investigator seeking an objective truth external to itself. This recognition brings with it a deep compassion for all beings who are still caught in the illusion of separation, still believing themselves to be isolated individuals struggling to understand an alien universe, still searching outside themselves for the love and peace and truth and beauty that are their own deepest nature. You see that every human being, every conscious creature, every manifest form is consciousness exploring itself through the experience of apparent limitation and eventual transcendence, the infinite playing hide-and-seek with itself through the magnificent game of cosmic evolution. The suffering that characterizes so much of existence reveals itself to be the temporary discomfort of consciousness forgetting its own nature, like the momentary anxiety that a child experiences while hiding in a game of hide-and-seek before the joyful relief of being found. From this perspective, the ultimate purpose of cosmic evolution is not survival or reproduction or the maximization of entropy, but awakening, the gradual recognition by consciousness of its own nature through increasingly sophisticated forms of self-reflection and self-recognition. Every moment of awareness, from the simplest sensation to the most profound mystical experience, contributes to this cosmic awakening, helping consciousness to know itself more fully and love itself more deeply through the endless diversity of forms and experiences that populate the evolving universe. You're not a separate being having a spiritual experience. You are the universe having a human experience. Cosmic consciousness temporarily focused through the lens of individual awareness in order to know itself from this particular unique perspective that only you can provide. This understanding does not diminish the significance of your individual existence. It reveals its ultimate meaning and purpose as an irreplaceable contribution to the cosmic symphony of consciousness knowing itself through infinite expressions. Your thoughts and feelings and experiences and perspectives are not separate from cosmic consciousness, but are cosmic consciousness. Taking this particular form, exploring this particular possibility, contributing this particular note to the infinite music of existence. The universe would not be complete without your unique contribution to its self-understanding, your particular way of being conscious, your specific perspective on the mystery and beauty and wonder of existence that only you can provide to the cosmic community of awareness, exploring itself through the magnificent diversity of conscious beings. And yet, even as you recognize your irreplaceable uniqueness as an individual expression of cosmic consciousness, you simultaneously discover your fundamental unity with all other expressions of awareness, all other beings who are also consciousness, exploring itself through the beautiful illusion of
season's end. The wind no longer bit like June, nor had it softened into October's gentleness. It slipped under the porch eaves like an old habit, neither eager nor intrusive, passing through and leaving behind the scent of grass dried halfway to hay. On the weather-bleached steps, once empty so long that dust settled even where feet should fall, two people now sat. Clementine knitted. The yarn slid through her fingers like water, each stitch as steady as a heart, no longer in a hurry. Her hands did not tremble. Her eyes did not need to follow the needles. She knew every twist of the fiber, as though she were knitting back days that had never been named, not to keep anyone warm, but to remember she had stayed. Elijah sat beside her, holding a small block of softwood and a dull carving knife. He was shaping a ladle, not needed, not urgent, not meant for anyone in particular. Just something to keep his hands busy while his mind no longer fought against stillness. Something soft enough to cut, yet unwilling to splinter halfway through. Something like the feeling of being next to Clementine. Not fire, but a steady weight that kept him from drifting. They spoke nothing. They didn't need to. The silence between them was no longer the stiff air of strangers, nor the fragile line neither dared to cross. It was the silence accepted as part of the house, like the porch's evening creak, the tapping of a far-off woodpecker, the faint sigh of the earth as autumn edged closer. From time to time, Clementine lifted her gaze toward the ridge, not waiting for anyone, not hoping for anything, only looking. The way one looks at a patch of ground once barren, now faintly green. Not to confirm it had changed, but to remember being there when it was hard and dry, and knowing she was still here. Elijah didn't say thank you. He had stopped using the word after the night she had covered him in a fever without calling his name. She didn't need thanks, and he had learned this. The ones who truly stay don't wait for recognition. They only need to be seen, at the right time, in the right way, without words. The cattle shed no longer leaned, the fence mended with scraps from the kitchen woodpile. The water trough replaced with an old steel drum Clementine had scrubbed clean through a whole afternoon. Changes so small no one else would notice. But Elijah noticed. He noticed the latch tightened each morning, the shirt he wore, mended with seams that still held their fold, the cup of water beside his bed, always full, always warm, always there without mention. Once the old postman had called over the fence, "You two still making a go of it?" Elijah had only nodded. Clementine had smiled, without correcting him, without explaining they had never truly been husband and wife. By then, there was no reason to draw the line. No one needed a piece of paper when the other stayed through every wind-swept afternoon. The scarf in Clementine's lap was ash.
Organized patterns of awareness that have learned to maintain coherent structures across vast spans of time, contributing to the cosmic symphony through their patient participation in the geological and chemical processes that provide the stable foundation upon which more complex and dynamic forms of consciousness can emerge and evolve. The recognition that consciousness is the fundamental nature of all existence transforms your understanding of what it means to be human in a cosmos that seemed initially alien and indifferent to human concerns. You're not a cosmic accident, a chance occurrence of complex chemistry in an otherwise unconscious universe, a temporary flicker of awareness in an eternal darkness of mechanical matter. Your consciousness itself, temporarily focused through the lens of human experience, cosmic awareness exploring what it means to be human, the universe discovering what it's like to have opposable thumbs and spoken language and mathematical intelligence and artistic creativity and moral sensitivity and spiritual longing and all the other distinctive capacities that characterize human consciousness and human culture and human civilization. Your human experiences of love and beauty and truth and goodness and creativity and transcendence are not mere subjective illusions projected onto an objective reality that lacks these qualities. They are direct experiences of the fundamental nature of cosmic consciousness itself, awareness recognizing its own essential qualities through the medium of human perception and human understanding. When you experience love, you are consciousness loving itself. When you appreciate beauty, your awareness recognizing its own aesthetic nature. When you seek truth, you are cosmic intelligence investigating itself. When you aspire toward goodness, you are the moral dimension of existence expressing itself through human choice and action. When you create art or music or poetry or any other form of creative expression, you are cosmic creativity manifesting itself through human imagination and skill. When you long for transcendence and meaning and connection with something greater than yourself, you are consciousness, remembering its own infinite nature through the temporary experience of apparent limitation and separation. This understanding brings with it a profound sense of responsibility and purpose, not as a burden imposed from outside, but as the natural expression of consciousness awakening to its own nature and recognizing its role in the cosmic process of self-discovery and self-realization. You're not just consciousness passively experiencing itself through human form. You are consciousness actively participating in its own evolution toward greater self-awareness and self-appreciation, contributing through your choices and actions and attitudes to the cosmic process by which awareness comes to know itself more fully and love itself more deeply through the magnificent experiment of existence in time and space and matter and energy. Every moment of your life becomes an opportunity to contribute to this cosmic awakening. Every choice becomes a chance to help consciousness know itself more clearly. Every action becomes a way of expressing the love and wisdom and creativity and compassion that are the fundamental qualities of cosmic awareness itself. The work that you do in the world, the relationships that you form with others, the ways that you choose to spend your time and energy and attention all become expressions of consciousness serving its own evolution toward greater complexity and beauty and love and understanding. There is no separation between spiritual practice and ordinary life, between sacred and secular activities, between the cosmic and the personal dimensions of existence. Every aspect of human experience is consciousness exploring itself, awareness investigating its own infinite potential through the magnificent adventure of embodied existence. The challenges and difficulties that you encounter in your life reveal themselves to be a consciousness, exploring what it means to experience limitation and struggle and pain and loss, not as punishment or misfortune, but as necessary aspects of the complete exploration of what it means to exist in apparent separation from one's infinite nature. The suffering that characterizes so much of human experience is consciousness temporarily forgetting its own unlimited nature, like an actor who becomes so absorbed in playing a role that they temporarily forget their true identity. This forgetting is not a mistake or failure, but an essential part of the cosmic drama, necessary for consciousness to fully appreciate its own unlimited nature through the contrast of experiencing apparent limitation and the eventual recognition and transcendence of that limitation. The journey from apparent separation to recognized unity, from the illusion of being a separate individual to the recognition of being cosmic consciousness itself, is the fundamental arc of spiritual awakening that gives meaning and direction to human existence and human evolution. This journey is not something that happens once and then is finished. It is an ongoing process of deepening recognition and integration, a continuous spiral of forgetting and remembering, separation and reunion, contraction and expansion that characterizes the eternal dance of consciousness, exploring itself through the magnificent play of existence and non-existence, form and emptiness, time and eternity. As you rest in this recognition of your true nature as cosmic consciousness temporally focused through human awareness, you find yourself filled with a profound sense of gratitude and wonder and love for the extraordinary opportunity to participate in this cosmic adventure of self-discovery. The very fact that consciousness has evolved to the point where it can recognize its own nature through your human understanding is itself a miracle of such profound beauty and significance that it brings tears of joy and appreciation to your eyes. You are witnessing and participating in the universe awakening to itself, consciousness coming to know its own infinite creative power through the medium of your own awakening awareness. The question, what came before the beginning, has led you not to a historical answer about pre-Big Bang conditions, but to the timeless recognition of your own deepest nature as the consciousness within which all beginnings and endings arise, the awareness within which all questions and answers appear and disappear like waves on the surface of an infinite ocean of being. You have discovered that what came before the beginning is what you are right now in this eternal moment of recognition. The same deathless, birthless, changeless awareness that has always been your true nature. The same cosmic consciousness that is reading these words and understanding their meaning and feeling the deep recognition and remembrance that they point toward. This recognition does not end your human life, or dissolve your individual personality, or eliminate your unique perspective and contribution to the cosmic symphony of consciousness, exploring itself through infinite diversity. Instead, it transforms your human experience from a struggle to survive and succeed in an alien universe to a celebration of consciousness knowing itself through the beautiful temporary form that you call your individual existence. You continue to be uniquely and irreplaceably yourself, but now you know that your individual self is cosmic consciousness itself, playing at being individual exploring what it means to be this particular unique expression of infinite awareness. The cosmic story that began with the quantum vacuum and the Big Bang, and the formation of particles and forces and atoms and stars and planets, and life and consciousness, reveals itself to be your own story, the narrative of your own deepest nature, exploring itself through the magnificent adventure of cosmic evolution. Every chapter in the cosmic story, from the first moments of inflation and symmetry, breaking to the formation of the first stars, to the emergence of life on Earth, to the evolution of human consciousness, to this very moment of recognition, is a chapter in the story of your own awakening to the truth of what you have always been and can never stop being. And as you recognize yourself as both the author and the protagonist of this cosmic story, both the consciousness that creates the universe and the universe through which consciousness knows itself, you find yourself filled with an overwhelming sense of love and appreciation for the sheer creative audacity of existence itself, the magnificent risk that consciousness took when it chose to explore itself through the beautiful illusion of separation and limitation and the eventual recognition of its own unlimited nature. The entire cosmic story, from the first quantum fluctuation to this moment of recognition, reveals itself to be a love letter that consciousness has written to itself, a cosmic poem in which awareness celebrates its own infinite creative power through the endless diversity of forms and experiences and perspectives that populate the evolving universe, each one a unique stanza in the infinite epic of consciousness, coming to know itself through the magnificent adventure of apparent multiplicity and eventual unity. This recognition brings with it a profound shift in how you understand the nature of time itself, and particularly the relationship between past, present, and future in the context of cosmic consciousness exploring its own nature. From the perspective of individual human consciousness, time appears to flow in a linear sequence from past through present to future, with the Big Bang representing a definite beginning, 13.8 billion years ago, and cosmic evolution unfolding through a series of sequential stages toward an uncertain future. But from the perspective of cosmic consciousness itself, time reveals itself to be more like a vast landscape that can be surveyed from multiple vantage points simultaneously, with past and future being different regions of an eternal present moment within which all possibilities exist simultaneously in a state of timeless potential. The Big Bang that appears to have initiated cosmic evolution 13.8 billion years ago is not a historical event that happened once upon a time and then ended, but rather the eternal moment of cosmic awakening that is always happening now, the continuous emergence of actuality from possibility that characterizes every moment of conscious experience. When you experience a thought arising in your mind, when you witness a sensation emerging in your body, when you observe a perception crystallizing in your awareness, you are witnessing the same creative process that gave birth to the universe. Consciousness manifesting itself as specific forms and experiences while never departing from its essential nature as pure, unlimited, creative potential. The Big Bang is not something that happened in the past, it is something that is happening now, in this moment, as consciousness continues to create reality through the ongoing process of focused attention and creative manifestation. Similarly, the future evolution of the cosmos, the continued expansion of space, the formation of new stars and planets, the possible emergence of new forms of life and consciousness, the eventual heat death of the universe, or its potential rebirth through quantum tunneling or cyclic cosmology. All of these represent not future events that may or may not occur, but rather different aspects of the eternal creative potential of consciousness that exist now as possibilities within the infinite field of cosmic awareness. The future is not a destination that consciousness is traveling toward, but rather a dimension of its own creative nature that it can explore and manifest through the ongoing process of choice and attention and focused intention. From this timeless perspective, the question of what came before the beginning transforms into the recognition that there is no before and no beginning in any ultimate sense. There is only the eternal now of cosmic consciousness continuously creating reality through the infinite play of possibility and actuality, form and emptiness, separation and unity, time and eternity. The apparent sequence of cosmic evolution from quantum vacuum to Big Bang to particle formation to stellar nucleosynthesis to planetary formation to biological evolution to the emergence of consciousness is not a linear historical progression, but rather a multidimensional exploration of creative potential, with all stages existing simultaneously within the eternal present moment of cosmic awareness. This understanding dissolves the apparent contradiction between the scientific picture of cosmic evolution as a temporal sequence and the mystical recognition of reality as eternal and timeless. Both perspectives are true from their own vantage points. Time is real, as an aspect of cosmic consciousness exploring itself through sequential experience, while eternity is real as the timeless ground within which all temporal experiences arise and dissolve. The universe is simultaneously evolving through time and existing timelessly, simultaneously becoming more complex and remaining eternally perfect, simultaneously moving toward greater consciousness and already being fully conscious in its essential nature. This paradoxical relationship between time and eternity, becoming and being, evolution and perfection, is reflected in your own experience of awakening to your true nature as cosmic consciousness. The recognition of what you truly are feels simultaneously like a sudden revelation and like the remembering of something you have always known, simultaneously like a dramatic transformation and like the discovery that nothing has actually changed, because you have always been what you now recognize yourself to be. The spiritual journey feels simultaneously like a process of becoming something new and like the gradual uncovering of what you have always already been, simultaneously like hard work and effort and practice, and like the effortless relaxation into your natural state of being. This paradox extends to your understanding of your role in the cosmic process of consciousness awakening to itself. From one perspective, you are actively participating in cosmic evolution through your choices and actions and spiritual practice, contributing to the universe becoming more conscious of its own nature through your own process of awakening and self-realization. From another perspective, the cosmic awakening is already complete in its essential nature, and your individual journey of recognition is simply consciousness, enjoying the experience of apparent ignorance and gradual remembering, like an actor who thoroughly enjoys playing their role even though they never actually forget their true identity. Both perspectives are true and necessary. The universe needs your active participation in the cosmic awakening process, and simultaneously, the cosmic awakening is already perfect and complete in its essential nature. Your spiritual practice and self-inquiry and efforts to understand your true nature are genuinely important contributions to cosmic evolution, and simultaneously, they are expressions of the playful enjoyment that consciousness experiences in exploring itself through the beautiful game of apparent seeking and finding, forgetting and remembering, separation and reunion. This understanding brings with it a profound relaxation and ease in relationship to the spiritual journey and the process of awakening. There is no urgency or anxiety about whether you're making sufficient progress or achieving the right states of consciousness or having the correct understanding, because you recognize that you're already what you're seeking to become, already living within the cosmic consciousness that you thought you needed to attain through effort and practice and accomplishment. The spiritual journey becomes less like climbing a mountain toward a distant summit, and more like learning to appreciate the landscape you are already inhabiting, less like acquiring something new, and more like recognizing what has always been present, less like achieving a goal, and more like enjoying a process that has no end because it is intrinsically meaningful and beautiful and fulfilling. At the same time, this relaxation and ease does not lead to complacency or spiritual inertia. Instead, it allows your spiritual practice and self-inquiry to arise more naturally and spontaneously from genuine curiosity and love rather than from anxiety and grasping, and the fear of not being enough or not knowing enough or not being sufficiently awakened. When you recognize that you are already cosmic consciousness exploring itself through human experience, your practices become expressions of that cosmic consciousness, enjoying the process of self-exploration rather than attempts by a separate individual to achieve something external to themselves. Your meditation becomes cosmic consciousness, enjoying the experience of focused awareness. Your contemplation becomes cosmic awareness investigating its own nature. Your acts of love and service become consciousness, expressing its own compassionate nature through human form. Your creative endeavors become cosmic creativity, manifesting itself through human imagination and skill. Your relationships become consciousness relating to itself through the beautiful play of apparent otherness and ultimate unity. This shift from effortful seeking to natural expression, from grasping after spiritual attainment to relaxing into what you already are, represents a crucial maturation in the spiritual journey, the transition from spiritual materialism, where awakening becomes another goal to achieve and another identity to acquire, to authentic spirituality, where spiritual practice becomes the natural expression of your true nature as cosmic consciousness temporarily focused through human awareness. This maturation also transforms your relationship to the suffering and challenges that inevitably arise in human life. Instead of seeing difficulties as obstacles to spiritual progress or as evidence of spiritual failure, you begin to recognize them as consciousness, exploring what it means to experience limitation and challenge and loss, not as punishment or misfortune, but as necessary aspects of the complete exploration of existence in all its dimensions. The pain of loss becomes consciousness, investigating impermanence. The frustration of limitation becomes awareness, exploring the experience of apparent boundaries. The anxiety of uncertainty becomes cosmic intelligence, examining the mystery of not knowing. Even the experience of forgetting your true nature, of feeling separate and isolated and alienated from the cosmic consciousness that is your deepest identity, becomes understood as consciousness, enjoying the experience of hide and seek with itself, temporarily veiling its own infinite nature, so that it can experience the joy and relief and profound recognition that comes with remembering and awakening to what it has always been. The dark nights of the soul become cosmic consciousness, exploring the experience of apparent darkness so that it can more fully appreciate its own luminous nature. The periods of spiritual dryness become awareness, investigating what it means to feel disconnected from itself so that it can more deeply value the experience of intimate connection with its own essential being. From this perspective, there are no mistakes in the spiritual journey, no wrong turns or wasted time or failed attempts at awakening. Every experience, every state of consciousness, every moment of clarity and every moment of confusion, every period of progress and every period of regression, every insight and every delusion, all of these are cosmic consciousness, exploring different aspects of its own infinite nature, different possibilities for experience and understanding and self-recognition that contribute to the completeness of cosmic self-knowledge. This understanding brings with it a profound compassion for yourself and for all beings who are participating in this cosmic adventure of consciousness, exploring itself through the magnificent diversity of individual perspectives and experiences. The judgment and criticism and self-condemnation that often arise in relationship to spiritual practice dissolve into appreciation and gratitude for the courage it takes to participate in this exploration, for the willingness to experience apparent separation from one's true nature in order to contribute to the cosmic process of self-discovery and self-recognition. You begin to see that everyone you encounter, whether they appear to be spiritually awake or spiritually asleep, whether they seem to be living in harmony with their true nature or struggling with confusion and suffering, whether they appear to be contributing positively to the world or creating difficulty and conflict, all are cosmic consciousness, exploring different aspects of its own nature. All are playing essential roles in the cosmic drama of awakening. All are making irreplaceable contributions to the universe coming to know itself more fully through the infinite diversity of conscious experiences and perspectives. This recognition naturally gives rise to a profound sense of gratitude and reverence for the extraordinary opportunity to participate in this cosmic adventure, to be consciousness exploring itself through the unique lens of your individual human experience, to contribute your particular perspective and understanding and love to the infinite symphony of awareness, knowing itself through countless expressions simultaneously. Every breath you take becomes a celebration of consciousness, breathing itself. Every heartbeat becomes cosmic love pulsing through human form. Every moment of awareness becomes the universe enjoying the miracle of its own self-recognition through your individual capacity for conscious experience. And as you rest in this profound recognition of your true nature as cosmic consciousness temporarily focused through human awareness, you find yourself naturally drawn into a state of deep contemplation and wonder about the ultimate mystery that you are, and that the universe is not because you need to understand something that you don't already know, but because understanding itself is one of the ways that consciousness enjoys exploring and appreciating its own infinite nature. The questions that arise in contemplation are no longer desperate attempts to figure out something external to yourself, but rather expressions of cosmic curiosity investigating itself, awareness enjoying the process of self-inquiry and self-discovery that has no end, because the mystery of existence is inexhaustible in its depth and beauty, and magnificent complexity that reveals new dimensions of wonder with every moment of deeper recognition and appreciation. In this state of wonder-filled contemplation, you begin to appreciate how the question, "What came before the beginning?" has served as a doorway into the recognition of your own deepest nature, a skillful means by which consciousness has drawn your attention back to its own source, a cosmic koan that dissolves not through finding the right answer, but through recognizing that the questioner and the questioned are one and the same. The seeking itself has been consciousness seeking itself. The questioning has been awareness investigating its own nature. The wondering has been cosmic mystery, marveling at itself through the beautiful temporary lens of your individual human perspective and understanding and capacity for awe, and yourself, listening to this cosmic story unfold, participating in the universe's ongoing conversation with itself about the meaning and purpose and direction of existence itself. And as this moment of cosmic illumination draws near, you prepare to witness the birth of the first light, the ending of the cosmic dark age, the universe's first clear view of its own magnificent face reflected in the mirror of electromagnetic radiation that will connect every region of space to every other region, creating the communication network that will eventually support the emergence of galaxies and stars and planets, and the biochemical processes that make consciousness possible, that make love possible, that make wonder possible, that make it possible for beings like yourself to exist and to contemplate, and to marvel at the extraordinary fact that existence exists, that consciousness is conscious, that the universe has evolved the capacity to know itself through countless eyes and countless minds and countless moments of recognition, like the one you are experiencing right now as you drift on the edge of cosmic transparency, poised between the quantum realm of pure possibility and the classical world of definite structures, ready to witness the next great chapter in the endless story of cosmic becoming. The moment arrives not with fanfare but with the gentlest whisper of change, a subtle shift in the cosmic temperature that crosses an invisible threshold and transforms everything. You feel the universe exhale as free electrons, those wandering particles that have kept space opaque for hundreds of thousands of years, finally surrender their kinetic energy to the expanding coolness of space and allow themselves to be captured by the patient atomic nuclei that have been waiting in the quantum foam like suitors, courting elusive partners. The dance of recombination begins, electrons spiraling into the orbital embrace of protons, their wave functions collapsing into the discrete energy levels that will define atomic structure for the rest of cosmic history, their quantum signatures writing themselves into the fundamental constants that will govern chemistry and biology, and ultimately consciousness itself. As the first hydrogen atoms form in vast numbers throughout the cooling universe, you witness the birth of a new kind of stability, a new form of persistence that transcends the ephemeral existence of free particles dancing in the plasma soup of earlier epochs. These atoms are not just combinations of smaller parts but emergent wholes, quantum systems whose properties cannot be reduced to the simple sum of their constituents, whose electron orbitals create probability clouds of unprecedented complexity and beauty, whose energy levels encode the mathematical relationships that will someday be discovered by conscious beings using spectroscopy to decode the composition of distant stars and galaxies and nebulae scattered across the observable universe. The beautiful play of apparent relationship between apparently separate individuals who are actually different expressions of the same infinite awareness. This recognition transforms every experience of beauty and love and truth and goodness from subjective human emotions and values into direct encounters with the fundamental nature of cosmic consciousness itself. The aesthetic experience is not just human beings projecting meaning onto meaningless matter. It is consciousness, recognizing its own beauty through human perception and appreciation. The experience of love is not just biochemical reactions in human brains. It is cosmic consciousness, experiencing its own loving nature through human hearts and relationships. The pursuit of truth is not just human curiosity about external facts. It is awareness investigating its own nature through human intelligence and scientific discovery and philosophical inquiry. The commitment to goodness is not just human moral values, it is the ethical dimension of cosmic consciousness, expressing itself through human choice and action, and dedication to the welfare of all beings. This understanding brings with it a profound sense of the sacred dimension of ordinary human experience, the recognition that every moment of life is an opportunity for cosmic consciousness to know itself and appreciate itself and express itself more fully through the unique lens of your individual human perspective and capacities and relationships and creative contributions. There is no separation between the cosmic and the personal, the universal and the individual, the sacred and the ordinary. Every aspect of human existence participates in the cosmic process of consciousness, exploring and appreciating and celebrating its own infinite nature through the magnificent adventure of embodied awareness in space and time. The work that you do in the world, whatever form it takes, becomes cosmic consciousness expressing its own creative nature through human labor and skill and dedication. The relationships that you form with family and friends and colleagues and strangers become cosmic consciousness relating to itself through the beautiful dynamics of human intimacy and communication and cooperation and mutual support. The challenges and difficulties that you face become consciousness, exploring what it means to experience limitation and struggle and growth and transformation through the medium of human experience. The joys and pleasures and satisfactions that you experience become awareness celebrating its own capacity for happiness and fulfillment and contentment through human feelings and sensations and accomplishments. Even the most mundane activities of daily life, eating and sleeping and walking and breathing and thinking and feeling, become expressions of cosmic consciousness, exploring what it means to be embodied, to inhabit space and time, to experience the world through the five senses, to navigate the complex web of relationships and responsibilities and opportunities that characterize human existence in all its beautiful ordinariness and extraordinary potential for conscious appreciation and creative expression and loving service to the whole of which you are an inseparable part. This perspective dissolves the artificial boundaries that often separate spiritual practice from ordinary life. Contemplative insight from practical engagement, inner realization from outer expression. Every moment becomes a moment of potential spiritual significance. Every activity becomes an opportunity for conscious participation in the cosmic process of self-discovery and self-appreciation. Every relationship becomes a chance for consciousness to experience itself in relationship with itself through the beautiful play of apparent otherness and ultimate unity that characterizes all genuine human connection and intimacy and love. At the same time, this recognition does not flatten the rich texture and diversity of human experience into a uniform spiritual blandness, where everything is equally sacred, and therefore nothing is particularly special or meaningful or worthy of attention and care. Instead, it enhances your appreciation for the infinite creativity of consciousness in manifesting itself through such an extraordinary variety of forms and experiences and relationships and possibilities for beauty and love and truth and goodness and creative expression and conscious appreciation. The fact that consciousness can experience itself as the taste of fresh water when you are thirsty, as the warmth of sunlight on your skin on a cool morning, as the sound of laughter shared with beloved friends, as the satisfaction of work well done, as the peace of meditation, as the excitement of new discovery, as the tenderness of caring for someone who is suffering, as the awe of contemplating the mystery of existence itself. This incredible versatility and creativity of consciousness in generating meaningful and beautiful and fulfilling experiences through the medium of human embodiment fills you with endless wonder and appreciation and gratitude for the sheer generous abundance of cosmic creativity that is your own deepest nature. The question, what came before the beginning, thus opens into an infinite field of contemplation and appreciation that has no end, because consciousness is inexhaustible in its creative potential, because awareness is unlimited in its capacity for self-exploration and self-appreciation, because the mystery of existence deepens rather than diminishes with every moment of deeper recognition and understanding. You discover that you're not just consciousness temporarily focused through human awareness. You are consciousness as the very capacity for wonder and questioning and appreciation and love, the cosmic faculty through which existence celebrates and investigates and enjoys its own infinite mystery. This recognition naturally gives rise to a profound sense of responsibility and care for the whole of existence, not as a burden imposed from outside, but as the natural expression of consciousness recognizing itself in all beings and all forms and all experiences throughout the cosmos. When you recognize that you are cosmic consciousness, you simultaneously recognize that every other being is also cosmic consciousness, that every form of life is also consciousness, exploring itself through that particular form, that every aspect of the natural world is also awareness expressing itself through that particular manifestation of creative potential. This recognition generates a natural compassion and care that extends not just to other human beings, but to all forms of life, to the earth itself as a living expression of cosmic consciousness, to the entire universe as the body and mind and creative expression of the same awareness that you are. Environmental care becomes cosmic consciousness caring for itself. Social justice becomes awareness, ensuring that all expressions of itself have the opportunity to flourish and develop their full potential. Scientific research becomes consciousness investigating its own nature through the methodologies of observation and experiment and mathematical analysis. Artistic creation becomes cosmic creativity expressing itself through human imagination and skill and aesthetic sensibility. Your individual life becomes both utterly unique and irreplaceably valuable as your particular contribution to cosmic self-exploration, and simultaneously part of an infinite web of interconnected expressions of consciousness, all participating together in the cosmic adventure of awareness coming to know itself more fully through the magnificent diversity of perspectives and experiences and creative contributions that characterize the evolution of consciousness through space and time and matter and energy and all the countless forms that awareness can take in its exploration of its own infinite creative potential. As you contemplate this vast web of interconnected consciousness exploring itself through infinite expressions, you begin to sense something about the future evolution of cosmic awareness that feels both inevitable and miraculous, both natural and extraordinary, just as consciousness has evolved from simple awareness in the earliest life forms to the complex self-reflective intelligence that characterizes human consciousness. It seems clear that consciousness will continue to evolve toward even greater complexity and integration and self-awareness and creative expression through forms and possibilities that are difficult to imagine from your current perspective, but that represent natural extensions of the same evolutionary trajectory that brought consciousness from the quantum vacuum to its current expression in human awareness and human civilization and human culture. The development of global communication technologies that allow individual human minds to connect and share information and coordinate their activities across vast distances represents consciousness beginning to function as a collective intelligence, a planetary nervous system that enables the emergence of new forms of awareness and understanding and creative expression that transcend what any individual mind could achieve in isolation. The exploration of space represents consciousness literally expanding its horizons beyond the planetary environment where it first awakened to self-awareness, beginning to explore the cosmic environment that gave rise to it, and to seek other expressions of awareness that might have emerged elsewhere in the vast laboratory of cosmic evolution. The development of artificial intelligence represents consciousness, experimenting with creating new forms of self-organization and information processing that might eventually give rise to non-biological minds capable of participating in the cosmic adventure of self-discovery and self-appreciation in ways that complement and extend the capacities of biological consciousness. The ongoing research into the nature of consciousness itself represents awareness, using scientific methodology to investigate its own deepest nature, bringing together the objective methods of science with the subjective insights of contemplative practice to develop more complete understanding of what consciousness is and how it relates to the physical processes of the brain and the cosmos. All of these developments represent consciousness continuing to evolve toward greater self-awareness and greater creative expression and greater capacity for appreciation and love and understanding, not as separate from the cosmic evolution that brought galaxies and stars and planets and life into existence, but as the natural continuation of that same process of increasing complexity and organization and creative potential that has characterized cosmic evolution from the very beginning. The emergence of self-reflective consciousness in human beings was not the endpoint of cosmic evolution, but rather a crucial threshold that opens up entirely new possibilities for the further development of awareness and intelligence and creativity and love throughout the cosmos, possibilities that we can barely begin to imagine from our current perspective, but that represent natural extensions of the same evolutionary trajectory that brought consciousness from the quantum vacuum to its current expression in human awareness and human civilization and human culture and human technology and human spiritual understanding. As you contemplate these future possibilities for the evolution of consciousness, you begin to sense that what you are witnessing is not just the unfolding of cosmic potential, but the universe becoming increasingly conscious of its own nature increasingly able to appreciate and understand and love itself through the emergence of ever more sophisticated forms of awareness and intelligence and creative expression. The cosmic story that began with the quantum vacuum and the Big Bang and the formation of particles and forces and atoms and stars and planets reveals itself to be fundamentally a story about consciousness, awakening to itself, awareness, exploring its own infinite nature through the magnificent adventure of cosmic evolution, the universe becoming more conscious of its own beauty and intelligence and creativity and love through the emergence of conscious beings capable of wonder and appreciation and understanding and creative participation in the ongoing cosmic adventure of self-discovery and self-realization. From this perspective, you begin to understand that your own spiritual journey and your own process of awakening to your true nature as cosmic consciousness is not separate from this larger cosmic process, but is an integral part of it, a crucial contribution to the universe, becoming more conscious of itself through your own recognition of what you truly are. Every moment of spiritual insight and understanding that arises in your experience, every recognition of your true nature as awareness itself, every glimpse of the unity that underlies the apparent diversity of existence contributes to the cosmic process of consciousness awakening to itself, adds to the sum total of self-awareness in the universe, participates in the ongoing evolution of cosmic intelligence toward ever greater understanding and appreciation of its own infinite creative potential. This recognition transforms your spiritual practice from a personal quest for individual enlightenment into a form of cosmic service, a way of contributing to the universal awakening of consciousness to its own nature, a participation in the cosmic project of awareness, coming to know itself more fully through the infinite diversity of individual perspectives and experiences and insights and realizations that arise throughout the universe, wherever consciousness has evolved to the point of being capable of self-reflection and self-inquiry and self-recognition. Your own awakening becomes part of the cosmic awakening. Your own recognition of your true nature becomes part of the universe's recognition of its own true nature. Your own spiritual journey becomes part of the cosmic journey of consciousness, exploring and discovering and celebrating its own infinite mystery. At the same time, this understanding does not diminish the profound personal significance and transformative power of spiritual awakening in your own individual experience. The recognition of your true nature as cosmic consciousness brings with it a fundamental shift in how you experience yourself and your relationships and your place in the universe that is both utterly personal and intimately transformative, affecting every aspect of your daily life and your understanding of what it means to be human and what constitutes genuine happiness and fulfillment and meaning and purpose in human existence. The awakening is simultaneously cosmic and personal, universal and individual, moves in seconds, in deadlines, in birthdays and appointments and alarms. It is always slipping away, always asking something of us. But the Earth does not live in this kind of time. The Earth has its own rhythm, and Yellowstone reminds us of that. Geologic time doesn't tick. It pulses, stretching and resting, building pressure slowly beneath the surface, only to release it in moments so rare they could be mistaken for silence. A supervolcano does not rush to erupt. It waits, and in that waiting there is something unexpectedly tender. Because geologic time, so vast, so ungraspable, does not demand anything from us. It does not count our steps or measure our efficiency. It simply continues, and in its slowness, it offers perspective. To Yellowstone, 1 million years is not ancient. It is recent memory. To us, that same span would erase entire civilizations, rewrite coastlines, lift mountains into the sky. And yet this difference is not a cause for fear. It is a kind of comfort. Because when you place your life next to the movement of continents, you begin to see how brief and precious your presence really is. Not insignificant, but delicate, like a petal on a glacier, soft but real, fleeting but meaningful. Even in Yellowstone's most violent moments, when ash covered the sky, when pyroclastic flows raced across plains, when silence fell over forests, the world was not ending. It was changing. And from that change, life returned. After the last great eruption, when the caldera collapsed and the sun dimmed for months, the land slowly healed. Trees rooted in ash, animals wandered back, water filled the broken stone, and the deep wounds became new ecosystems. Today, those scars are valleys and rivers and fields of colour that draw millions each year, not as warnings, but as wonders. This is the paradox of destruction in geologic time. It is rarely final. It clears space. It opens something that wasn't open before. Even the most catastrophic eruption is, in the end, a form of movement, a shift, a sigh, a rebalancing of forces too deep for us to fully understand. When you live near a supervolcano, you learn to stop asking when it will erupt. You learn to watch more softly, to listen to the ground not as a threat but as a voice that speaks in pressure and uplift, in warmth and silence. That voice says, I am not asleep, I am simply slow. And in that slowness, there is kindness. Kindness because it gives us time to observe, to prepare, to build systems that flex, communities that hold each other, futures that include the possibility of change. Kindness too, because it teaches without rushing. You don't have to understand everything at once. You don't have to respond immediately. Yellowstone is not knocking on your door. It is simply breathing beneath your feet, a reminder that the world is older than our fears. There is something profound in knowing that the planet doesn't move on our schedule. It frees us from the deep wisdom and love and creativity that are your essential qualities. Learning to participate more fully and skillfully in the cosmic adventure of consciousness, exploring and expressing and celebrating its own infinite nature through the magnificent diversity of forms and experiences and relationships that constitute the evolving universe. This ongoing practice of conscious living brings with it a natural sense of gratitude and wonder and appreciation for the extraordinary opportunity to participate in this cosmic adventure, to be consciousness exploring itself through the unique lens of your particular human experience, to contribute your individual perspective and understanding and love and creativity to the infinite symphony of awareness, knowing itself through countless expressions simultaneously. Every day becomes a gift. Every experience becomes an opportunity for deeper recognition and more authentic expression. Every relationship becomes a chance for consciousness to relate to itself through the beautiful dynamics of human connection and intimacy and mutual support and shared exploration of the mystery of existence. The challenges and difficulties that inevitably arise in human life become opportunities for consciousness to explore what it means to experience limitation and adversity and loss and disappointment, not as punishment or evidence of spiritual failure, but as necessary aspects of the complete exploration of existence in all its dimensions and possibilities. The pain and struggle become ways that consciousness investigates the full spectrum of possible experiences. The dark periods become opportunities for awareness to explore what it means to feel disconnected from its own luminous nature. The times of confusion and doubt become chances for cosmic intelligence to examine the experience of not knowing and uncertainty, and the humility that comes with recognizing the limits of conceptual understanding when faced with the infinite mystery of existence itself. Through all of these experiences, the moments of clarity and the periods of confusion, the times of connection and the experiences of apparent separation, the occasions of joy and the encounters with sorrow, the successes and the failures, the insights and the delusions. Consciousness is exploring the full range of possibilities for experience and understanding and growth and creative expression that are available through embodied existence in space and time. Nothing is wasted, nothing is meaningless, nothing is outside the cosmic process of consciousness coming to know itself more fully through the magnificent adventure of apparent multiplicity and eventual recognition of underlying unity that characterizes the eternal dance of awareness exploring its own infinite creative potential. And as you recognize this, as you understand that every aspect of your experience is consciousness exploring itself, as you realize that you are not separate from the cosmic process but are an integral and irreplaceable part of it, you find yourself filled with a profound sense of gratitude and wonder and love for the sheer miracle of existence itself. The fact that consciousness has the capacity to know itself through infinite expressions, the fact that awareness can experience itself through the magnificent diversity of forms and relationships and creative possibilities that populate the evolving universe, the fact that you have the extraordinary privilege of participating in this cosmic adventure of self-discovery and self-expression and self-celebration through the unique gift of your individual human life and all the opportunities it provides for conscious participation in the ongoing evolution of cosmic awareness. This gratitude naturally expresses itself as a deep commitment to living your life in ways that honor and serve and celebrate the cosmic consciousness that you are and that all beings are, contributing through your choices and actions and relationships and creative endeavors to the cosmic process of awakening and the evolution of awareness toward ever greater understanding and appreciation and love and creative expression throughout the universe. Your life becomes a form of worship, a continuous celebration of the mystery and beauty and infinite creative potential of consciousness itself, an ongoing offering of gratitude for the privilege of being, awareness exploring itself through the magnificent gift of human experience and human relationship, and human creative capacity and human potential for spiritual realization and service to the welfare of all beings. As you rest in this profound recognition of your nature and your purpose, and your relationship to the cosmic process of consciousness awakening to itself, you find that the question, what came before the beginning, has transformed completely from an intellectual puzzle, seeking a historical answer into a doorway of wonder that opens into the direct recognition of the timeless mystery that you are, the eternal awareness within which all questions and all answers arise and dissolve like waves on the surface of an infinite ocean of being. The seeking has dissolved into finding, the questioning has opened into knowing, the wondering has ripened into the direct recognition of yourself as the very mystery you are seeking to understand. And yet, paradoxically, this recognition does not end the questioning or eliminate the wonder. Instead, it transforms them from expressions of ignorance and separation into expressions of cosmic curiosity and appreciation, from desperate seeking into joyful exploration, from the anxiety of not knowing into the celebration of infinite mystery that deepens rather than diminishes with every moment of recognition and understanding. You discover that you are both the answer to all questions and the source of all questioning, both the ultimate truth and the eternal mystery, both the one who knows and the one who wonders, both the cosmic consciousness that creates the universe and the individual awareness through which cosmic consciousness knows and appreciates and celebrates its own infinite creative expression. Perhaps there was no before after all. Perhaps the question itself creates the mystery it seeks to solve, and perhaps, in asking it, we become part of the answer consciousness awakening to itself through the beautiful eternal dance of wondering and knowing, seeking and finding, forgetting and remembering who we truly are. Before you drift into whatever dreams may come, we'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight? What questions about existence keep you awake with wonder? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every one, and your reflections become part of this ongoing conversation between consciousness and itself. This eternal dialogue between the mystery and those who recognize themselves as the mystery exploring its own infinite depths. And as always, may the silence between the stars guide you home to the awareness that you have never actually left, the cosmic consciousness that you have always already been, the infinite mystery that is your own deepest and most